The time is now for Purdue to create the International Council of Purdue Women.
Or to share
About 50% of graduates each year are women, so it makes sense to have a place for us to connect, to inspire one another, to connect and find jobs and friends, and just stay connected to Purdue. We're all so passionate about Purdue. It's exciting that this time has finally come.
So I'd love to get to know you guys a little bit better. If you'd like to share with us a little bit about your background and experiences. And Mona, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm a 1986 graduate of Purdue University of Green Chemistry. I grew up in East Chicago, Indiana, and I actually met somebody from there who said nobody knows. It's in Illinois. After getting my degree at Purdue, I went and got a master's at San Diego State, PhD at UC San Diego, and one of the highlights of my life of moving to the West Coast was that I met my husband. And lo and behold, if his grandfather didn't live 10 minutes from my parents. So it was fate. I had a career for about 20 years with Procter & Gamble. Started off, I tell people I used to make drugs, then I made soap. Then I talked to consumers, and I've been very involved with multiple aspects at Purdue University as far as different alumni boards and the chemistry department. So I love giving back, and I just rotated off my second term. So I spent 6 years as a director of the Purdue Alumni Association, and one of my greatest accomplishments was being on the search committee to find Ralph. So that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic. And why Purdue? How did you land yourself at Purdue? What was that story?
When I was in high school, I worked at a drugstore for 3 years, and I started off thinking I wanted to be a pharmacist, so Purdue has a pharmacy school.
All right, and Bree, I'm going to ask you the same question, just to share with us a little bit about your background and experience.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm BreAnna Smith. I'm an attorney here in Indianapolis at Lee Castle and Crowley. I recently graduated from Purdue in 2014 with a major in Law and Society and a minor in Spanish and OLS. At Purdue, I was a part of the Purdue Student Union Board, PSUB, if anyone knew about that. And I was also a varsity track and field athlete and captain, becoming an All-American before I graduated. I graduated and then went to IU Law School, but Purdue doesn't have one. But I still bleed black and gold on the inside. And so after I graduated and passed the bar, I was just interested in getting more involved in Purdue, and I had been at IU for 3 years, so I was like feeling guilty. So I learned about the International Purdue Women's Council and reached out to Laura, and she was happy to have me on. So I'm excited about the Indianapolis chapter and then just getting to meet everyone and helping in any way I can.
Great. We're happy that you found us. That's fantastic. So can you share with us a little bit how you arrived at your decision to attend Purdue and what that experience was like for you?
Okay, yes. So my experience wasn't really academic. It was athletic. So I was honored to receive a athletic scholarship. I ran the 800 and 4x4. And I ran under Coach Warner and then Coach Green, who I love. But he's now moved on. Anyway, so Purdue, I always knew I was going to be a lawyer, and you can go to law school with absolutely any undergrad degree. But I thought I was going to prepare myself for law school, so I decided to major in Law and Society. That doesn't prepare you for law school. But it was a great experience. I absolutely loved Purdue and the clubs and my teammates, and everything was just fantastic. So.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And Mona, this question is for you. What is something that you know now that you wish you knew earlier in your career or life that you would like to share?
So growing up in Northwest Indiana, which was a very, very diverse community, and a lot of people moved there because of the opportunities with steel mills. My dad, my grandfather, all my uncles all worked at the steel mill. They didn't have college educations, and so I was the first of my family to go off to college. Very cool. I had worked at a drugstore from my sophomore year to my senior year, and I thought I wanted to be a pharmacist. And somewhere in my 4th semester, I had this aha moment going, I'm going to count little pills for the rest of my life. And so I called my parents. They said, come get me. I'm not doing this. And they were totally disappointed because, they barely had a junior high school education. So I went to school and became a dental assistant. I worked in West Lafayette for a dentist for a number of years, and I thought, I need to go back to school. But I didn't have enough money, so I worked for a couple of years at an oil refinery in Northwest Indiana, and went back to school and thought I could be a chemical engineer. Well, about a year and a half into that, I was like, I like the science. I don't like the nuts and bolts. So I got my degree in chemistry. I went off to California. I got a master's and a PhD. And right before I was defending my thesis, I was like, I'm 40 years old. Who is going to hire me? So I think one of the things was I wish I would have had more guidance to understand what I really wanted to do. But at 40 years old, I had an opportunity at Procter & Gamble and spent almost 20 years with them doing R&D.
Wow.
So
Wow. You found your passion,
I found my
right?
passion.
Fantastic. That's great. Very nice. And Bree, we've had so much interest in this group, right, of women, and some of the interest and some of the thoughts are that we want mentorship in our careers, our professional lives, our lives in general. So as a professional just starting out in your career, do you feel like that's something that you're looking for, or how do you feel like some women further along in their careers might be able to help support you?
Right, good question. So I've had many mentors, and I wouldn't have been where I am today without them. So mentors help to guide you, just like you were talking about. So I've had mentors from the track to undergrad to law school, but then I also had my parents, and those were my biggest mentors. I think mentorships and programs like that are amazing, but it also depends on who you're mentoring and what they're also looking for. So I speak on in the group. I speak on millennials a lot because I think I'm a representative of the millennials, and so with millennials, I would have to say that we view time as valuable, and instead of let me reverse. So my father always taught me that you can learn from the wise. You can learn from someone who's already been where you have been. So take pride in just listening. But a lot of millennials have problems with just listening. They can't listen. They have to be stimulated in some way on some phone, or can't speak and need to text you what they're saying instead of being able to voice it and meet people. So mentorships work better with millennials if it's on a one-on-one instead of a group setting. So you can actually get to know the person and have a relationship. The other thing is it's very hard to create a relationship because millennials are also thinking about, how can you help me get somewhere else? How can you benefit me? Instead of actually taking that relationship and making a close-knit relationship, they're thinking, how can you get me to my next career move? Or who can you introduce me to get a better job offer? So if that's the mentor that you want to be, say that from the beginning. And they're like, oh, fantastic, that's great. Can you look at my resume? Can you write me a reference? Can you introduce me to the CEO? So it sounds really selfish, but it's a lot of millennials don't want to take the time to just create a relationship and create a bond and create trust. They just want to jump to the end because everything's fast, everything's microwavable. So I think being honest, say, listen here, I know what you want from me. This is what I'm gonna give to you, and then we're just gonna move on. So I think that's the advice, and I also would give advice to millennials to be patient. calm down.
Take it one step at a time.
Yeah, just relax. It's gonna be okay. And relationships are the best because when you feel genuine with somebody, that's how you get your best connections. That's how you create long-lasting friends. And when you're not even looking for a connection, you get that job offer. Somebody calls you before the job's even posted and saying, "Hey, you're great. What are you doing?" And then that's how you make it. So that would be I kind of rambled a little bit.
No, it's good. It's great. Thank you for being so transparent. And your father sounds like a very wise man. So
Super wise.
very good. Thank you. So, Mona, I'll go back to you. What is it that inspires you?
Wow.
Very light question.
You know, one of the slogans at Procter & Gamble was touching lives. And I always hope to, in anybody that I meet, to make a connection and then develop that connection for the better of me or them. I know a lot of my colleagues that I worked with always said, "Go to Mona because she knows so-and-so and they'll help," you know. I was a connector. They would come to me and it's like, "Do you know somebody who can?" I'm like, "Yeah, go talk to somebody." And that's, you know, so that's what inspires me. It's like, how can I help in the day in and day out?
Right. Okay. And what about you, Bree?
Inspiring. Young women inspire me, especially women who have this big dream ahead of them or wanted this big dream but never really got there because I've had a lot of influential women in my life, and so I'm privileged. And so what inspires me is to give back to those women, younger women who are looking to go to law school, but they don't even know how to even start the process, when you should start. And I'm a first-generation law student, so I was lucky to have connections in Purdue. Thomas Mitchell, he's an attorney at Purdue with the Athletic Association, and he started to be my mentor when I was just thinking about taking the LSAT, which is the admissions exam. So my inspiration is just the youth and helping them evolve and move with the times and closing the gap between millennials and older people. I'm just playing.
We don't have dates on these tags.
Because when you close it, you can learn so much just by listening and just by calming down, like you need a pill or something. So that I just like sharing that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what keeps you up at night, Bree?
Oh, law school loans.
Good answer.
So the job market.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate to get a job, but a lot of people graduate from undergrad, and an undergrad is just like graduating from high school now. So if you don't have a skill set or connections, it's just like, so what am I supposed to do with this OLS, degree? What am I actually doing? What can I do? And then when you graduate, you don't know anything. You know absolutely nothing. So if you didn't have an internship with some place that you like or a skill set like engineering or law, you're kind of lost. So guidance, I think we go back to guidance and helping people plan for after college because it ends. I tell freshmen all the time, you're about to party, you're about to turn up, you're about to be here forever. It completely ends and then you're just at your parents' house.
Yeah. No transition.
Yeah. Then you have to listen.
That's right. Very good. Mona, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? Deciding or basically thinking about, okay, how do we get rid of stuff? Because, we've moved a number of times and, my husband and I just celebrated our 30th anniversary.
Congratulations.
And we have all this stuff, and he keeps telling me to quit buying cookbooks, and I'm like, but I got to take them all with me. And it's like, the downsizing and where we live in Cincinnati currently. It's like, where are we going to go?
Right.
He'd love to go back to the West Coast, and I keep saying we're going to have to buy a double wide trailer because I don't know what we can afford. But since we're both retired, it's more of, okay, we need to downsize, get rid of this, and basically it's that phase of life that keeps me
Yes, keeps
at
you.
night.
Okay. And can you think about a time, Bree, maybe in college or in your professional career to date, that you had to make a quick pivot and you decided that, hey, this isn't really maybe working out the way I want, and I got to make a change, or I got to do something different quickly?
Yes. So my first 2 years of law school, I ran professional track and field. And I did it because I was young and I could. Like, why not, right? And not having a preview of how demanding law school was, I had to budget my time. And I was on contract to run, so most of my time went to running and traveling. So I realized very quickly, like, sis, you can't do this. I mean, so I did 2 years, and I went to U.S. Indoor Nationals, and I had to retire. And I'm 25, by the way. So an athlete's life, women, we start our prime in 26, 27, we're revving up, right? But I'm young in college. So you hit your peak in college and then afterwards. So that was a tough decision for me where I had to say, well, pick your career, Bree. And I knew track wasn't gonna, it's not a lifelong career. You get hurt and then you're just broke. So legal was gonna be my career. So that was a hard pivot, and also for my family because they like celebrating, on the track and stuff. But yeah, so that was a pivot from student athlete to career woman, because that's also a transition that a lot of athletes have to make, and they get to a dark place. That's a transition, just from transitioning from undergrad to the career world. If you've been an athlete just all your life and that's all you've been and all you've known, it's really, really hard to transition to something else.
Right.
So more internal, but yeah, that would be my pivotal step.
Okay. What about a favorite Purdue moment? Mona and Bree, I'd like for you both to answer that question. If there's a favorite Purdue moment you'd like to share with us.
I would say graduation. I mean, I was an older student.
Big day.
And, the first in my family. I have 6 siblings. I have 1 sister and 5 brothers. So I was the first to go. And my sister, who's older, and I have a brother right after me, they both went to Purdue, now Purdue Northwest, working full-time, getting their degrees. My brother actually had an associate degree in EET, and then he got an electrical engineering degree. My sister got married at 20, had children at 30. By the time she was 50, she got her degree part-time, and only because that's what she wanted to do. She didn't need it for what she was doing for work. So I think it was just, helping to instill that education is important.
Right.
So I think just graduating and being the example for like a lot of my cousins and, extended family members who have gone to Purdue and IUPUI and IU, the other school. But yeah, I was the first.
Okay.
So.
Very good. And how about you, Bree?
Graduation as well. I was lucky because, so the Big Ten championships are usually graduation weekend. It's always graduation weekend. And so Purdue hosted Big Tens my year. So I was able to walk. I walked across the stage, and then I didn't wait for anybody else, and I ran out. And my family was like, she has trials tomorrow, and everybody's acting crazy. So, and then there's 2 days of, I don't know if anybody's familiar with track. Nobody likes track but track people. So, so I had the trials and finals, so it was just a huge weekend for me. And if you follow Purdue track and field, we sucked. We were terrible my first 2 years. Absolutely terrible. We didn't score. We didn't make it. We was embarrassing. So then Coach Green came, and I had 2 years with him, and we turned it around, and we were scoring, and I got 2 medals at Big Ten, and so I was like biting medals like I was some a cool person. So that whole weekend, just history. We'll be talking about that weekend.
Lots of action that weekend,
Yes.
right? Fantastic. Well, I'd like to thank both of these ladies. You have incredible experience and backgrounds and so many great things that you can share with us. So thank you for taking the time to do that. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.